Like and subscribe right now, or this will be in your bed tonight. Hello and welcome back to ProRevenge. Before we start, please scroll down and click like and subscribe. This means you will get more videos from me. Also please like and subscribe as it will make my day and is free. Thanks. Brother steals my life savings. I'm a 31 male and currently serve in the British Army. I come from a very poor and broken family. My brother is 30, who also serves in the army, but a different corp to myself. He lives directly opposite my father's house and live around 250 miles away. I wasn't raised by my parents and brought up by my grandparents, who were both retired and living off their state pension. So money was hard, but they did what they could and I'm thankful. I worked on a local farm since I was 12 to get what other kids had and often enough money for food. My brother Martin was raised by my father and stepmom who provided for him well. I have several other siblings whom my mom raised. There's 8 of us in total. I know, get a hobby, watch the TV or go outside. I only talk to one of my siblings, which is my half sister Sarah. Martin is everything I hate in a person. Cocky, big-headed, gloats and the world evolves around him. All my mail goes to my father's house. This is normal for people who serve. Over the 10 years I had managed to save just under £35,000, which is a huge amount to me. I have lived a simple life, saving where I can and volunteered to deploy on operations, which we get a bonus for doing. I have officially spent over 4.5 years not sleeping in my own bed to achieve this and my dream of owning my own home, which is something unheard of in my family. Upon returning from my last operational tour, the time came to start looking for a home. I set my budget, got an APE agreement in principle, and found an area I liked. When the time came to start moving my money to a separate account, to my shock and horror I discovered my account had less than £50 in it. I felt sick, horrified and crushed. I called my bank hoping it was just a mistake. It wasn't. There had been a number of withdrawals and transfers made over the last 6 months that had cleared the balance. The only information they could give me was a statement showing the account it left and the account number that it was transferred when to. I spoke to my stepmom who has the info of my account to find out if she had moved it. As she went through the account she had noticed the account number was my brother's. My blood is boiling now. I called him and let loose down the phone, and after a swift exchange of insults, he admitted to taking it. For those wondering what his excuse was, and you don't need the money, you don't have a family, probably wouldn't ever have one either, and it's selfish having all that money and not sharing it. There was other things said to which I do not wish to share, and to put this into context for people, I'm gay and he was saying I will not have kids therefore did not need money or my own home. He earns above national average, lives comfortably, shoves in people's faces. For example, when it comes around to Christmas, him and his wife like to post on social media how much they've bought. They literally lay it out all over their living and dining room floors, stacked high, and there is no room to walk as a means to gloat to people who do not have the means by as much as them. Here comes the revenge. I'm back into no contact with him. However, I'm fully aware of a few things. Martin's wife claims he lives with Miss Mother, so she can claim state benefits for her and his 3 kids. I took leave from work for 3 weeks and go visit my father and stepmom. I record my brother stopping at his house every single day and wrote a log of when he left and returned. My stepmother also informed me he isn't working much because he has told his sergeant major his wife and one of his kids are seriously ill and he needs to be home to care for them. To clarify, they are not. They are in good health. In the British Army you get paid for whether you're off work, ill, family issues, etc. A perk of the job. I sent this information to the Department of Work and Pensions, and they launched their own investigation. Aside from being a benefit thief, I then call his sergeant major. After a discussion and a few emails of a link social media, which is covered in videos of Martin and his wife always drinking, partying and a lot of geotagging, he is called back to work immediately. From what he has told my dad, he was given a 2-year promotion ban and £1,800 fine. I do not know how long he had been doing this for. He was also moved camp very quickly after this. His wife has also been ordered to repay a year's worth of benefits back to the taxpayer. Big win for the little people. Lastly, he also wrote off his shiny new car, which is probably where all my money went. As for what he's stolen from me, I've spoken to a legal expert in fraud who seems willing to take my case, and I want to fully press charges and reclaim what I can. My father on the other hand has told me not to take this route and proclaims, if I do it, it will undoubtedly affect his kids and his ability to get work if he ever left the military due to gaining a criminal record. He has suggested we talk of a repayment plan as he's been punished enough, which I know it will never be repaid. I'm at odds with the guilty feeling. In order to take it to court I'd have to lodge a formal complaint. However, I'm bitter. It's crappy. I've grafted over all years these to improve my situation in life, just to have it pulled from me. I'm thankful I've still got my health, but life's not been easy, and I feel like just giving up. I will update on my decision later. TL. Doctor. Brother stole my life savings. I report his benefit thief and misleading of his chain of command. He receives a fine, promotion ban and ordered to repay benefits. Apologies on spelling, punctuation and grammar. It's 0251. I'm tired. Peace out. Apprentice engineer pisses off the crew, gets left behind 250 miles from home. Lordy. I was reminded of this story after a recent phone call from an old friend. Rather a long one, so sincere apologies in advance. It's part r/ProRevenge, part r/entitled people. Some years age, I got a gig working a weekend music festival. Fairly simple too, 10 bands per day and all pretty standard rock and roll fare. Bossman puts 4 of us out on the gig, me, Dreadful Boris, Big Chris and Hammer. He also said we'd be taking out an apprentice, a young lad who was the son of a local promoter. Well, always nice to have an extra pair of hands, and it's good to help train the next generation after all. That's how we learnt in the past. As it turned out, this lad was about as much use as an aqualung to a trout, and had an entitled attitude the size of a mid-ranged African country. On the journey down in the truck, he was boasting as to how he was a really good sound engineer already, and that he could probably show us a few tricks. Oh, really? We get to the venue, and get busy unloading the truck. We've got a 16-tonner stuffed to the gills with 2 sound desks, and about 16 kilowatts of sound gear for front of house, and about 6 kilowatts of monitors. As you might imagine, this is pretty heavy stuff, and it takes all of us to safely unload it and get it stacked up in place, except that, after unloading the first amp rack, all on wheels, but still around 80 kilos, the entitled brat snottily announces that I'm a sound engineer, not a humper, and promptly strolls off. Pointer AI. Well, we don't really need him gumming up the works, we're all well used to slinging boxes around. So about an hour later we've got the rig stacked up and strapped down, run out the multi-core to the foredesk, and are ready to start cabling up and tying power into the on-site generator. Out of nowhere, the spotty oik emerges from whatever hole he had buried himself in and asks what he can do. I say, I'm going to plug up front of house, perhaps you could help hammer cable up the speakers. I don't take orders from girlies. Quick side note here, Hammer was 5 feet 9 inches, drop dead gorgeous and as hard as nails, hence her nickname. She was also a damn fine faux engineer and a bloody good mate. Boris, Chris and I collectively groaned inwardly and winced in anticipation of a full 16-inch broadside from Hammer. Seriously, folks, you do not fuck with her unless you want the family jewels dangling from the nearest tree. Instead she smiles sweetly, never a good sign, and says, well, I'm sure you'll learn something useful. I then go off to play with cables while Boris and Chris busy themselves with the monitors. A while later I'm back on stage. Spotty Oik has wandered off again. Hammer has this resigned look on her face. What happened? I ask. Turns out that, despite cables and connector ports being well labeled, the Oik had managed to make a complete pig's ear of plugging up the amp racks. Trust me, it's very hard to make this kind of mistake. I found the Oik some moments later and told him that it was not the proper way of doing things, and that if he wasn't sure what to do, that he should always ask one of us beforehand. What then came out of his mouth absolutely floored me. I don't need to know all that shit. I'm a sound engineer. //. Hammer, who was standing a few feet away, snorted derisively and rolled her eyes heavenwards. It took me a few seconds to process this particular nugget of stupid. Well, you have to know how all this works. It's part and parcel of the job, and as you're here to learn, I suggest you pay attention. Well, you're just a bunch of roadies. What do you know? Upon delivering this charming bon mot, He ambles off, again, leaving me to retrieve my jaw from off the deck and Hammer barely able to restrain a fit of laughter that would have incapacitated a rhino. At a guess, this idiot thought he was going to be white gloving front of house for the whole gig. An hour or so later, we are all set up, and we now have a fair idea of the acts that are going to be performing. In situations like this, you rarely get the opportunity of a full-blown sound check, so you have to rely on experience to set the desk up from cold. Luckily we got the first act on stage a half hour before the kickoff, so I could quickly get a rough sense of the overall setup. A bit of exposition. It's convenient to reuse channels across acts, so I generally keep the first 20 or so channels for drums, bass, and guitars, and the last half dozen or so channels for vocals. If a band comes in with anything else, percussion, brass, Tibetan nose flutes, etc., we whack them on channels in the middle. Keeps things nice, simple and consistent across the board, and becomes important in a moment. The working procedure in show is also simple. Dreadful Boris and Big Chris run the monitor desk, and Hammer and I run front of house. We'll do 2 acts each, before handing over to the other. Saves wear and tear on the ears, and when we are not running the desk, we'll handle setting up the stage for each act, and troubleshooting where necessary, as well as doing runs for food and coffee in between. We also tasked the spotty oik with helping with the stage setups, which rapidly proved problematical. We finished the first act and aimed to do the turnover within 15 minutes. Generally the incoming act will tell us their mic requirements and we'll write up a mic plot which then gets sent up to the front of house desk. Up comes Spotty Oik with the mic plot and he goes back to help with the stage setup. As I'm checking each mic, I notice that I cannot hear the vocal channels. No sooner had I spotted this than Dreadful Boris comes on the intercom and asks me if I can hear the vocal channels. He can't hear them either. He then goes off to check the stager box where all the mics are plugged into. From all the way out front, I hear him shout, "Fuck me." Seconds later he's back on the cans. Do you know what that fucking idiot has done? Only repatched all the vocal channels so that all the plugs on the stager box are lined up neatly one after the other. His words. Ye gods. Boris rapidly repatches the mix, and we are good to go again. A few hours later, and I'm starting my second shift out front. I won't bore you with my experiences of riding herd on Spotty Oik on the stage shift, which shall we say was interesting. Currently on stage is a rather nice jazz septet. I love doing jazz, give me a nice 20-piece big band, and I'm a happy bunny. Up strolls he who shall not be mentioned and asks, when can I have a go at mixing? I'm really good, you know. Seeing as he's here to learn, I tell him he can take the next act under my supervision. This happened to be an acoustic duo, 2 guitars and 2 vocals. Even the most thorough engineer should be able to handle something so simple, right? Wrong. I've already set what I regarded as a sensible baseline on the faders for him to work with. First thing he does, he reaches for the master faders and cranks in another 15 dB in 00000. Immediately the rig teeters on the edge of feedback, and I rapidly pull the mains back. Look and listen, balance out the 2 vocals, then the guitars, leave the mains alone. He then starts making wildly inappropriate changes to the channels. Again the rig starts to squeak. Okay, enough. I shove him out of the way and bring it back under control. I won't fatigue you further with the endless catalogue of foul-ups and attitude that he managed to effect over the rest of the weekend. Suffice it to say that despite the best efforts of myself and Hammer to try and teach this guy, they all went to naught. Couple this with the constant drip of snide commentary about how he was really a better engineer than the rest of us, and by the end of the weekend, we are all pretty pissed off. Come the end of the event and it's now the fun part of striking the rig and loading out. I'm being sarcastic about the fun part, by the way. 2 solid days and we are all knackered and the last thing we want to be doing is the get out. But, of course, it has to be done. It's always an all hands on deck situation, except the Spotty Oik has, once again, vanished into the woodwork. 2 back-breaking hours later, and we're all done, and the truck loaded to go home. So where is the Spotty Oik? Nowhere. We give it a good 15 minutes but no joy. We then decide to go look for him, so we spent another 20 minutes trolling around the site trying to find him. Again, he's done a disappearing act. We get back to the truck, it's now close to 3 AM and almost simultaneously we say, Fuck him. We climb back aboard and drive the 250 miles back to the warehouse to unload. Next afternoon, Bossman calls me to find out why we'd left the spotty oik behind. I gave him the cliff notes and was then told that the oik had to call his dad at 3 in the morning to come and get him a 500-mile round trip. He then said, I never liked that promoter anyway. He was always late paying the bill on previous gigs. Next time he calls wanting a rig and crew, I think I'll tell him to fuck off. Thank you all for watching to the end of the video. But before you go, please like and subscribe for more. Not many of you at all that watch are subscribed or like the video, and this makes me unsure if I should continue to make more content or not. So if you want more content, please like and subscribe. If you don't want to miss out on any future videos, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button. Also, please give me some feedback in the comment section about what I can do better, because not many people comment on my videos, so I have no idea of people's opinions of thoughts about this YouTube channel. So yeah, that's all from me. If you have subscribed and liked the video, please consider sharing the video with your friends. Thanks and bye. I'm still doing daily uploads, so hope to see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.